Hello everyone, this is the final video for activity 3.5 Chesapeake Bay Oysters part 3. We will be looking at how to complete the argument tool. This is our second argument tool and you're going to have one on your chapter test. Argument tool is a little different than the explanation tool that we have been working so far. This is how it looks like, and we will be looking at different sections or what makes argument tool different than the explanation tool in the next slide. So parts of the argument tool, we again start with a question. And since this is an argument tool, we are going to make two claims, claim A and claim B. After this step, we are going to find evidence for both claims, and then we will critique the claims. We will talk about if the evidences are strong, which in return makes the claim strong or not. And the the argument, scientific argument, is the paragraph that you use to create in the backside of the explanation tool. It's the same. You will create an argument, scientific argument, by using the question, claim, evidences, and critique you have on the first page. And the final part is critique of the rebuttal, meaning that you are going to explain why the claim that you don't support is not strong enough. So the question that we have to complete our second argument tool is an increase in the human population in the Chesapeake Bay area affecting the number of oysters in the bay? So we have discussed this, and we have many type of information on this, so you can make your claim easily. I put two images on the right. So the first one is a text that I believe you remember. It's part B, changes in the Chesapeake Bay ecosystem. And if you look at the part that we highlighted, it says there are farms surrounding the bay, and runoff from these farms is the primary source of nutrients. So we are getting more and more farms around the Chesapeake Bay. And also the second image is the graph, oyster harvest in the Chesapeake Bay, which is decreasing. So based on this information, we can easily answer this question and make our claim. So claim A is going to be the increase in the human population is affecting the number of oysters, if you remember from the previous slide. Then we will skip claim B. That's what we usually do first. Claim A and then claim B, and then we look for evidences, but let's complete everything regarding claim A first. So the evidence for claim A, which we said that the number of people affecting the oyster number in the Chesapeake Bay. So the evidence that supports this claim is, and when I say this claim, I refer to claim A. There is more nitrogen runoff with more people because there are more farms to grow more food, and it comes from here. We know that the farms are, in terms of number, getting more and more around the Chesapeake Bay. So more farms means more nitrogen runoff. So the second evidence is there are larger dead zones when there is more nitrogen runoff. And this was one of the graphs that we looked at. And if you remember, we looked at the nitrogen runoff graph and how it's related to the total size of dead zones in the Chesapeake Bay graph, and we concluded that as the nitrogen runoff increases, so does the size of dead zones. And it's coming from here. You can see that the size of dead zones are increasing, and the final evidence that shows humans are affecting or impacting the oyster number is the final evidence is oyster harvest usually decrease when dead zones increase, and we came up with this evidence by using this graph. Oyster number is decreasing. So scientific reasoning evaluating the evidence and claim A. We just explained them in the previous slide, so we can simply say that this evidence is strong and there is lots of evidence. Okay, now it's time for claim B. Normally, as you remember, we make claim A and then claim B, and since this is an argument tool, if you say yes in claim A, claim B is going to be no. If you say yes, it will increase, claim B is going to be no, it will not increase. So claim A and B are going to be opposite. So the claim B is going to be the increase in the human population is not affecting the number of oysters. The evidence that supports this claim B. So if we look at the oyster harvest in Chesapeake Bay, we see that the harvest is decreasing. So somebody can or may refer to this as like we are not harvesting more oysters, even though human population is increasing. So maybe we don't really impact oyster population because we don't catch more, we start catching less. So obviously the harvest is not increasing, meaning that we do not impact oyster numbers. Humans are catching a lot fewer oysters now than in previous decades. This might be an evidence to support claim B, which was no humans increasing number of human population does not affect oyster numbers. So the reasoning of claim B, I believe that it didn't really make sense to you, saying that we catch less oysters, so it means that we don't impact their number. So we can say that the evidence is not strong because the lower oyster catch could just be because there are fewer oysters because they have been overfished. We have no evidence that the lower catch means more oysters are being left in the bay. So it's not like the oyster population is constant and we just catching less because we don't want to overfish. The reason is we are catching less because we already overfished them and dead zones are impacting them. So yeah, this is the reason. It's not because the population is stable, we catch less, but we already overfished. That's why we have less oysters now. So the argument looks like, sounds like this. We start with the question first. Is an increase in the human population in the Chesapeake Bay area affecting the number of oysters in the bay? The increase in the human population in the Chesapeake Bay area is affecting the number of oysters in the bay. That's our claim. An increase in the human population means that there need to be more farms to grow more food for more people. If there are more farms, then there is more nitrogen runoff, which leads to larger dead zones. These are our evidences. When the dead zone increases, the oyster harvest decreases, likely because there are fewer oysters to catch. Overall, this means that more people in the area leads to fewer oysters. And that's our conclusion, and it also supports the claim that we made. Overall, this means, let's highlight that part. Overall, this means that more people in the area leads to fewer oysters. The final part for the argument 2 is critique of the rebuttal, the critiquing the claim B. So to do this, we have a sentence structure. We say that after we are done with our claim A, after we are done with our scientific argument, this is our sentence structure. Other people might claim blank, that we now start talking about claim B. We state claim B, and then we say, I think the problem with this argument is, and we put our reasoning for claim B. If you remember, we said the argument is not strong enough because catching less oyster means that we already overfished them. So the critique of the rebuttal sounds like this. Other people might claim that the increase in human population in the Chesapeake Bay area does not affect the number of oysters in the bay. I think the problem with this argument is that the only data that might support this is that fewer oysters are being caught than in previous decades, but that could just be because the oysters have been overfished by humans already. It's not because population is stable, we catch less. It's because we already overfished them. So this is how you complete an argument tool, and I hope you watch this, and if you have any questions, you can write them as comments or ask me in the classroom.